diligence, used 15 times in 14 verses of the Bible. Diligence is making it well with my soul and mind, so that it brings righteous joy and gladness to my being.
Lots of people have written books on it. What is heaven like? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Rod Hembry.
And I'm Janice.
And this is the Quick Study television program. It is great to have you with us today as we go through the Bible in 1 year. Janice, a lot of people have talked about heaven, written books about heaven.
It's true.
And I wonder if anybody's considered that many of the prophets in the Bible see heaven. And they describe it. One of the places they describe it is the book of Isaiah, chapter 6. So today we're going to be looking at that book where we're going to be talking about what Isaiah sees when he sees heaven. I think you might be interested in that. So stay there as we continue. Corey is here with Bible Archaeology and History. Corey?
Yes, well, one of the prophecies of Isaiah begins by Isaiah dating it to in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw. So right now, today on today's program, we're going to be taking a look at the life and times of King Uzziah.
What a king he was, a very interesting guy, a scientist, a botanist, many different things, an amazing king. Ryan is here with Cosmic Mysteries. Ryan?
Last Friday, we looked at a scientific model called the nebular hypothesis. We discovered that it does have some scientific issues. And today, we continue our study.
All right, then we have Did You Know?
Well, Do You Know is formulated, and you'll be able to tell in just a moment that we don't corroborate what we do beforehand. Do you know what king died in the year that Isaiah saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up?
I hope you're paying attention.
Now, the prophet Isaiah records several different kings. He mentions several different kings of Judah that were alive during his life, during his ministry of prophesying for God, literally speaking the words of God to the people. Now, one of these kings we've already learned about in the books of Kings and Chronicles. His name is King Uzziah or King Azariah. We are going to take a look at his reign right now. In 2 Chronicles chapter 26, we read the account of King Uzziah of Judah. He becomes king when he is only 16 years old, after his rebellious father is murdered. Uzziah's reign is largely successful. He turns back to the ways of God, is successful in military campaigns against the Philistines and many others, which bring him international recognition. We're told that Uzziah treats his military well, arming them and clothing them, and even beginning projects in military machinery. With the addition of his building projects and his love for the land demonstrated in his planting projects, Uzziah is the model king. Nearing the end of his reign, we're told of Uzziah's big mistake. He's now a man with a lot of pride, and decides that he wants to offer his own incense in the temple, a practice only allowed by a consecrated priest. While in the temple, the priests confront Uzziah, and while he's yelling at them, we're told that God gives Uzziah another crown, one of leprosy. Uzziah now has to live in a separate house with his infectious disease. When he dies, he's given a royal burial, but because of the disease, he's not placed with his ancestors. Today, we have found Uzziah's name on 2 separate signet seals that belong to 2 of Uzziah's servants. And near Jerusalem, Uzziah's famous gravestone that says, "Here the body of King Uzziah was placed. Do not open." An ancient warning reminding all visitors of Uzziah's leprosy.
It's time to explore the wise guys of the Bible, and they're all around us. Now, the book of Ecclesiastes 12:12, the preacher reminds us of the making of many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. There has been a flurry of books published about heaven. Many have claimed to have visited the divine kingdom and returned to write books about what they saw. Yet for a clearer picture of heaven, we need to go no further than Isaiah chapter 6. Now, the wise guy prophet is making us wise to the images of God and His heaven. So we learn some sobering and yet exciting realities of God's throne from the royal prophet Isaiah.
Isaiah 6, 1 through 11. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one cried to another and said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." And the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. So I said, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a live coal which he had taken with the tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth with it and said, "Behold, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is taken away, and your sin purged." Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here am I, send me." And he said, "Go and tell this people, keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull, and their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and return and be healed." Then I said, "Lord, how long?" And he answered, "Until the cities are laid waste and without inhabitant, the houses are without a man, the land is utterly desolate." Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 11.
You're watching Quick Study Television. My name is Rod Hembry. Have you ever wondered what heaven is like? You know, all through the Bible, we see images of heaven. Some of the greatest images come from the last book of the Bible, called the book of Revelation. But there are other places in the Bible where we learn, because heaven's eternal, heaven doesn't change, where we learn some really interesting people, values, persons, or angels in the Bible. Isaiah 6 is one of them. Today we want to study seeing heaven. Now this is Isaiah having a vision of heaven, and the scripture says, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord." Now notice here that the first thing he sees in heaven is the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on a throne. That's the first image. High and lifted up. And the train of his robe, that is the wake of his presence, filled the temple. That's an interesting transition from heaven to earth. Verse 2, above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face. With 2 he covered his feet. And with 2 he flew. And one cried to the other and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Wow, what a scene. Here's the first study-wise point. God's throne is high and lifted up, and nothing in this universe can compare to its power and its glory. God is the Lord of lords, the King of kings. He is above all power and all authority. Know who your God is. Very important. Verse 4. Now the posts of the doors were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. So I said, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. And then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a live coal, which he had taken with the tongs from the altar of God. And he touched my mouth with it and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is taken away from you, and your sin is purged. This is amazing to me because God's throne emanates with strength for rescue and for healing, but not for violence, hate, and destruction. That's interesting. God's throne emanates with strength for rescue and healing, but not for violence, vengeance, hate, and destruction. That's very, very important. Now, when we understand this, that God's power is designed to make us right with him, to rescue us, and that all of this hate and violence and destruction was not God's original plan. Now, there will be violence and destruction in God's vengeance and God's wrath, but God's wrath is not like our wrath. It's holy wrath. It's a holy righteousness wrath, and that's different. Verse 8 through 11 say, Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And then I said, I am here, send me. And he said, Go, Isaiah, and tell the people, Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull and their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and return and be healed. And then I said, Lord, but how long will this happen? And he answered, Until the cities are laid waste without inhabitant. The houses are without a man, no authority, and the land is utterly desolate. Now, beloved, the very important point that we go to, God's throne, its unmatchable power, is holy and full of truth. God's throne and unmatchable power is holy and full of truth. Heaven's power will lay bare all lies. Now, I wanted you to see that because I want to give you an example of something. My wife looked at this angel. How does this power manifest itself on earth that we've studied today? This angel has 6 wings by the throne. With 2, he covers his face. With 2, he covers his feet. And with 2, they're outstretched. Now, what does that look like? This is my wife. She came up with this. God showed this to her. It's a cross of Jesus Christ. Isn't that amazing? So even in heaven, the image of God's power through Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, coming to earth and displaying his rescuing power and displaying laying to waste all lies. Remember what Psalm 39 says? Psalm 51, you desire truth in the inward parts. How's that going to be? Ask the woman at the well. God exposed her to him privately and brought truth to her life, which made her a disciple of Christ. See, through the power of Jesus Christ, we see 3 things. Holy, holy, holy. The whole earth is full of his glory. Well, what is that glory that the whole earth is full of? Jesus Christ. And today, believers all over the world are full of the glory of God through Jesus Christ. So here we see in Isaiah chapter 6, an image of heaven, and we see heaven coming to earth. And it's manifest. In heaven, we see the image of the cross through the angel hovering above the throne. And on earth, we see the glory of God full of the earth. The earth is full of his glory. What an amazing passage in Isaiah chapter 6. Let's study it.
There are a few kings of Judah that the prophet Isaiah confronts directly and has dialogue with directly that is recorded in the book of Isaiah. Now, one of these kings of Judah is King Ahaz. So you and I right now are going to go in and take a look at his reign, his life, and what he did. King Ahaz of Judah was not a good king. His 16-year reign in Judah coincided with a famous king of Assyria, Tiglath-Pileser III, who brought Assyria's power to dominance in the ancient world. 2 Kings, Chronicles, and Isaiah record a world trying to resist this Assyrian threat. Northern Israel allied themselves with Aram and began to fight against Judah, trying to attain more territory and wealth to hold back Assyria's armies. This is when the prophet Isaiah enters. Isaiah chapter 7 has Isaiah confronting Ahaz, promising God's rescue and telling Ahaz to test the Lord's ability to save. But Ahaz refuses. This was not piety. Kings and Chronicles have already told us of Ahaz's activities. He had been trying to accumulate spiritual power by sacrificing one of his sons to a pagan god. He had set up whole systems of pagan worship and had even secretly sent word to Assyria in hopes of positioning Judah as loyal subjects of this new empire, worthy of being trusted and left alone. The Bible tells us this plan ultimately failed. Tiglath-Pileser did save Judah from the Aram-Israel alliance, but he then turned and exacted a staggering amount of tribute. Today, we have documentation of Ahaz's reign. A seal impression from a servant of Ahaz has been found. And recently, an impression from Ahaz's own royal seal has been identified. It reads, "Belonging to Ahaz, son of Jotham, king of Judah." On the back of the impression, the outline of the papyrus document it sealed, now long decayed, can be clearly seen. There is even a partial fingerprint preserved.
Quick Study Television can go with you wherever you go. It's compatible with all Android tablets and iPad tablets. For more information, go to BibleDiscoveryTV.com and click on Tablets. Quick Study TV needs your help this summer. We're looking for viewers to partner with us by becoming regular giving members of the Quick Study support team. A gift in any amount on a regular basis will help us tremendously. If you as a viewer see any value in this program, would you consider giving an offering in any amount now to help us continue broadcasting every day in every way right here? Our address is P.O. Box 150, Murrysville, Pennsylvania, 15680-150. In Canada, it's P.O. Box 456, Orangeville, Ontario, L9W5G2. You can also give online at BibleDiscoveryTV.com. Well, thank you for watching Quick Study and staying with us. We're not done yet. There's much more to study, and here to help us with cosmic mysteries is Ryan Hembry.
Last Friday, we tested the nebular hypothesis and found that it had some scientific issues. Now, in case you missed last Friday, the nebular hypothesis is a theory about how our solar system came into existence. It is also created around the starting assumption that there was no supernatural force behind the creation of our solar system. Today, continuing in good scientific procedure, we test the nebular hypothesis some more.
The nebular hypothesis is the evolutionary idea that everything formed out of a cloud of gas and dust. But can this theory hold up against careful scrutiny? Saturn is one of 4 planets in our solar system that has rings. Saturn's rings are actually fragments of dust, rock, and ice. Believers in the nebular hypothesis claim that this is leftover material from the Big Bang that failed to come together into moons. However, the evidence indicates something else. It appears that one or more moons exploded and the debris was caught up by Saturn. Several of the moons still in existence today show signs of massive internal stress in the past. Take Miranda and Mimas, for example. Miranda, one of Uranus's moons, has a warped and deformed surface and looks like it was nearly torn apart from the inside. Miranda is only 300 miles across, yet due to the stress it was under, there are canyons 10 miles deep. Mimas, a moon of Saturn, also appears to have nearly come apart at the seams, as well as some of Jupiter's moons. The evidence indicates that these planetary rings are moons that did not survive. Astronomers have also found an asteroid belt in between Mars and Jupiter. This belt is a huge swarm of boulders, rocks, and pebbles. Sometimes fragments collide with each other and are knocked out of the belt completely. These freed fragments are called meteors. When a meteor strikes a moon or a planet, it is called a meteor impact. These impacts create craters on planets and moons with hard surfaces. According to the nebular hypothesis, this asteroid belt is leftover material from the original formation of the universe by way of evolution. It also claims that each planet and moon has formed from meteor impacts in all directions for billions of years, and that this is how the moons and planets have reached their current sizes. This hypothesis also claims that these craters must be evenly spaced everywhere on the surface. This is called symmetrical cratering. The problem is that astronomers have never seen symmetrical cratering anywhere. Only asymmetrical cratering has been found. So what happened? Why is there an asteroid belt? Some believe these fragments were once a planet. The weight of the entire belt is very small. However, when an explosion happens, most of the debris leaves the site forever. Is there evidence for this theory? Indeed. Far outside the main asteroid belt are smaller belts. It is also possible that fragments got caught up in a planet's gravitational field. Mars, for example, has two small moons that appear to be meteors. They are called Phobos and Deimos. If a planet did explode, it would have sent debris in all directions, which would explain the uneven cratering we are finding. Both the moons and planets' destruction was due to a buildup of heat within them. The source of this heat is unknown, but the remaining moons and planets seem to have been hotter in the past. Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune do in fact still have heat, but Uranus appears not to be losing any heat due to its different internal behavior and composition. Since the nebular hypothesis relies on consistency, it cannot account for Uranus's steady heat. There are several things which the nebular hypothesis just cannot explain, such as retrograde rotation, Uranus's tilted axis and steady heat, Pluto's lack of atmosphere, and asymmetrical cratering. The nebular hypothesis has completely failed to explain the current state of the universe and therefore is found false. The evidence points to a different explanation.
As you can see, this nebular hypothesis model has many different scientific problems. And with this many problems, good science instructs us to discard this model completely. If you're a scientist and you're trying to create your own models, then I suggest using the words of the Bible as your starting assumption. Many have found their job to be much easier when they do this.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ryan. And by the way, you're holding the Bible that was used by my father, who passed away in 2010. That Bible has been used on this set and on the other sets from Quick Study all the way back to the time when it was Life Lessons, all the way back to the time when it was Project
Long time
9.
ago.
In fact, bring me that Bible over here, Ryan. Bring me that Bible. And this was my dad's Bible, and we keep it here. It's an old PTL Bible, PTL Counseling Bible. And it's got all my dad's notes in it here about Mark Buntain and all kinds of things. So we keep it around here to look at it and study it. And anyway, just a piece of information. There's a lot of things on the Quick Study set you may not be aware have definite significance. All right.
That's true.
Do you know?
This has definite significance. Yes. Do you know what king died in the year that Uzziah saw the Lord sitting on a throne high and lifted up? And if you've been paying attention, you probably have heard it at least a couple of times.
Well, Ryan, have you been paying attention?
I have been. I think the answer was in one of Corey's titles.
Well, what is the answer? What do you think? Well, we're going to let Corey.
Well, no, I'm not gonna steal it. I'm gonna give this to Corey.
Corey?
Okay, the answer is Uzziah. King Uzziah died. He had leprosy. It ended up being fatal. He had been co-reigning with his son Jotham, but it was in the year that King Uzziah died that Isaiah saw.
Yeah, actually, he had leprosy because it broke out on his forehead.
That's right. Okay, so that came easy. What stood above the throne in Isaiah's vision? What stood above his throne? Anybody have any?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, it's right here. It's what I'm teaching on today. Seraphim.
Very good. Very good. Well, we're running out of time, but how many wings did each seraphim have?
Ryan, how many wings? You have 5 seconds.
2?
6.
No, 6 wings. There you go. Very good. Excellent, Jen. Seeing heaven should change us if it's heaven we have seen. God's power is embedded in His presence, and when we are exposed to it, our souls change. Isaiah was changed. God's presence was shown in a vision to him. Now, this vision was not the meanderings of a spiritualist prophet or the drivel of priestcraft. It changed the prophet. God's wisdom is at work in us when we remember God's true presence changes men and women. Prophets who claim to be exposed to God's presence frequently will become undone as mere men in His holiness. They will be less interested in the rewards of this world and infatuated with God's gospel. With that we pray, Lord, teach me to test every spirit and see that it truly is from God. In our Wise Up segment today, we're again looking and studying the book of Proverbs. Today we focus on verse 11 of chapter 17, where it says, "An evil man seeks only rebellion. Therefore a cruel messenger will be sent against him." You know, rebellion has consequences. Now, many of us have lived our lives in rebellion. We think that anything gets in the way of what we want to do when we want to do it is bad. But God provided His word for protective custody. It says, acknowledge God in all your ways, and He will direct your paths. Now, you may be somebody who has an encounter with God, but you've wandered away. And may I encourage you today, it's time to come home. Time to come home to Christ and allow Him to give you the purpose you were meant for. Stop running and come on home. It's time for the prodigal to come home. And so I encourage you, pray and say, Jesus, forgive me of my sin. I confess my rebellion to you. And I decide today to accept your provision of 1 John 1, that if we confess our sins, you are faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Come home. Thank you for watching Quick Study today. Remember, we are supported by people just like you. If you would like to join us and become a member of the Quick Study support team, write or call today. Thank you for your generous support.